Ah.
Welcome to GamePunx.
Yes, welcome to GamePunx. It is it's a lovely 40-degree summer evening.
It's
here
fucked up.
in beautiful Montreal, Quebec.
Swamp ass is rampant today. I thought I was gonna have a heat stroke on my way to work today.
I was very lucky that my father was gracious enough to pick me up from work today because I spent like a good hour putzing around before going to work outside, and by the time I got in to where I work, I was fucking dead, and then I had to put my goddamn face mask on for like four hours.
I had to bike with my face mask on, and like it got all sweaty and wet, so I was basically waterboarding myself at some point, so I had to take it off.
Oh god.
Yeah, because I was like actually not able to breathe, and I was like, "Well, this sucks."
Yeah, this
too hot
this
for this
week
shit.
has been too. It's been like 3 heat waves this summer so far, and like the weekend is supposed to be really fucking rainy, so hopefully it kills the humidity a little bit. But Jesus Christ,
We can only hope.
it has been fucking brutal.
I mean, there was that one mini storm we had that I was like, "Oh, this will help cool everything off," but it just doubled down on the humidity.
Oh yeah, that fucking sucked. That was just defeating.
It was horrible.
It just made it so much worse. Yeah, so the swamp ass is fucking rampant today.
The sky make me cry.
The heat make me weep.
Yeah,
it's fucking sucked. Anyway, I've been playing a lot of video games this week because when I get home from work, after I'm done chatting with my boyfriend, I sit on my ass down and I play video games.
right next to the AC.
Yeah, I sit on the floor where my AC is the coldest. And I have a hardwood floor, so it's like cold floor.
My AC's running now, so I hope it doesn't pick up too much on the audio. I'll noise correct it, but
I mean,
I'm
it
not
sounds
turning
good on
this off.
my end, so you're good. But oh my god, it's been a fucking brutal humdinger this week. But what have you been playing?
I've been playing Them's Fighting Herds, which is a very fun, good fighting game. It's fun. It's good. They did a good job. It's got a nice little documentary on Hold Back to Block with the story about it, which is a tale and a half, if I do say so myself.
I think in brief summary, it was pretty much like, started out as like an MLP Friendship is Magic fan game that somebody was making.
Yeah,
and then
it was like a joke tossed
DMCA'd
around.
real fucking hard.
Well, it got, because it was getting too much traction. Like, I think it won the EVO funding. There's like an EVO thing where like there was a funding, God, it's so hot. What are words? Crowdsourced, Kickstarter-like thing, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember right now. But yeah, there was like a fucking thing, and then Hasbro was like, wow, that's a lot of money. No. Just no.
No.
And then the creator lady, whose name escapes me right
Lauren
now.
Faust.
Yes, Lauren Faust was like, hey, you guys have been working on this for, at that point, I believe it was like 3 years.
Yeah, and you know,
nuts.
she was pretty engaged with the fan community for that show.
It. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, of course, I'm sure she was interested. So yeah, she pitched in, and she offered
ended up
to
making OCs.
Yeah, she did basically drew a bunch of original characters for the game.
And they're all really cute.
They're
love them
super
all.
cute. They carry her signature style. Like if you've ever, she's mostly known for like MLP, but she's married to Craig McCracken, who's the creator of Powerpuff Girls and of Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. So like if you've seen those shows, you've seen some of her work and kind of what her aesthetic is like. Or her other show that she's doing now, the DC Superhero Girls, which is her.
Oh, really?
Also has her
particular
art style to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, the characters have a very, very just particular cute cartoon animal aesthetic.
And honestly, I'm kind of glad that it did get away from MLP, because I probably still would have played it even if it was an MLP game.
Yeah, because it's a good game.
Because it's a good game. It's just the characters seem so much more fun.
Yeah, and I feel like
I don't have any attachment to MLP.
MLP has like a fandom stink on it now that like
it's like Smash Bros.
I mean, honestly,
it's getting worse than Smash Bros. Now.
How many people in like the quote unquote atheist/skeptic community came out of like the MLP fandom? Yeah, like how many of those douchebags are like, or what do they call them? Like the intellectual dark web? Those fucking dumbasses.
Are you a neo-Nazi right-wing or are you MLP right-wing?
Yeah, basically. Those are your two options. So yeah, this game is very unique in that it's like
Yeah.
started as a fan game, became a legit game with association with and help from the creator of the thing that it was a fan game for. So that's really
and they did an
fucking
amazing
neat.
job.
Yeah,
They also
good.
started on a fucking God, what's it called? An engine. Fuck. They started on a really, really drag and drop engine, so like it was super limited in what they could do, and even I think it's called Fighter Maker. Like even left and right corners didn't even work the same, so you'd get like different shit you could do in different corners, which is not necessarily a thing you want in a fighting game. Like
No,
you want
not really.
fighting games to be kind of busted and crazy, but not too much. You want the characters to be busted and crazy. You don't want the stages.
Especially like a game that's meant to be like a fun for all party style fighter.
Yeah,
like
I mean
that.
it's a very Marvel versus Capcom.
Or like,
game.
you know, Battle for the Grid, same kind of thing. Like it's not a perfect game by any means. It's got its bugs.
Everyone's
not
busted.
Tight. It's busted as hell, but it's also
It's
basically the most fun you can have playing a fighting game.
It's got
like a legit fighting
super
game,
in-depth tutorial. Yeah. It's got a super in-depth tutorial. Like it teaches you push blocking. It teaches you about overheads. It teaches you about fucking combo resets and extenders and like how to cancel into different moves and shit. It's really nice.
That's so fucking dope.
I spent this Wednesday, last Wednesday, whenever. I don't know what day it is.
It was this Wednesday.
Yeah, I spent this Wednesday. I did about an hour of the story mode, which is very cute. But I think I'm gonna do that on my own time now because it's a lot of reading.
Yeah,
there's a lot of NPCs around, and I want to like talk to everyone, but I don't necessarily want to have to. Yeah,
nice.
I don't want to have to read it out loud every single time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did about an hour of the tutorials and shit just to kind of get a feel for the game, and because I had been playing it before, but I was just kind of beating my head against it and trying to figure out shit. But doing the tutorials really helped. Like I learned how to push block in this game because in Battle for the Grid and some other games that I do that do have push blocking, it's like one button while you're blocking. You press it as the attack hits, and like it'll push the enemy away.
Yeah,
and kind of give you space to get out of the fucking corner. But this one's two buttons, so every time I would try to push block, I was just doing one button, so it wasn't working, obviously. And then the tutorial was like, "It's two buttons, dummy," and I was like, "Oh, yeah, okay."
Ooh.
There's also like alpha reversals and shit, which is where you're blocking and you can do a move to like kind of push the enemy the fuck out. It's got a bunch of cool shit. Uses half meter. Anyway, whatever. Good tutorial, really fun. And then I hopped online for a bit, not long. I think I did about 30 minutes of online, and I only played against one person because like they were bodying me, and I was like, I need to learn how to deal with this shit. So it wasn't a very fun watch. But
good learning experience, though.
Exactly. I mean, like when I was playing Street Fighter V, the first, so many matches was just loss after loss after loss, and then you start getting like a good feel for the fundamentals and shit.
You
like,
hop into a round and somebody greases the floor with you.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's fighting games though. If you're gonna hop online, you're gonna lose over and over. It's a very humbling experience, I feel.
It is.
You get salt at
people in the FGC generally tend to get better just the more they play. Like some people like to imagine that fighting games are like this thing that you have to have this innate talent.
Yeah, like you're immediately skilled and like.
But if
shit does translate over, but
if you touch like any amount of online play in any fighting game, even if you're the most skilled, even if you're the most skilled fighting game player of all time, the most like quote unquote naturally gifted, you're gonna get fucking sweeped the first few rounds. Yeah, maybe even more. But the more you play a game like that, the more you learn the mechanics, the more you learn what kind of things people can do with each of these characters, and you get a better feel for the game.
Yeah, it's really nice. It's
a rewarding experience.
I think it's why I gravitated to it so much recently, because before, I think the closest thing I had to like this feeling was kind of Overwatch, but I got real tired of first-person shooters and Overwatch in general.
Overwatch is like killing itself.
Yeah, I mean,
I feel like nobody is talking.
That's an episode
about
and a half.
Nobody is talking about fucking Overwatch 2 except for people who still play Overwatch.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking about Overwatch 2 for the meme, but
nobody fucking cares anymore. It's actually kind of remarkable because Apex exists. Fortnite came out of nowhere and basically
cleaned house.
Like any amount of the popular massively multiplayer online game, like that is a shooter or whatever, is Fortnite. That's the game now. That's the game everybody plays because it's fucking free to play. So, there we go. Yeah, I don't know if I could ever see Blizzard switching to a free to play model for any of their games.
Never.
They would never do that.
No.
But Them's Fighting Herds is fucking cool.
Amazing. And that documentary on Hold Back to Block is also a very fun watch. They also just released recently a Killer Instinct documentary, which is also a very nice watch. Hold Back to Block is good work.
I watched that video. That was fucking awesome.
Nice.
It was so good.
Anyway.
Yeah, alright. Well, that's great. That's a great game. If anybody hasn't played Them's Fighting Herds yet, I recommend you give it a try.
I don't know if it's out on anything else but the PC right now.
No, I'm pretty sure it's just on PC currently.
Yeah, it seems.
But hey, if you got a good enough PC, give it a whirl, honestly.
It doesn't. You can honestly run this on a potato. It's very low maintenance. It runs on the Skullgirls engines, and Skullgirl also. Oh, Jesus, man, slurring words. Hot and a little bit tipsy. Anyway, the Skullgirls engine usually runs shit pretty good. Like my computer, before I even upgraded the graphics card, like this Skullgirls and Power Rangers Battle for the Grid. If you want to get into fighting games, but you have a potato computer, get one of these. Very fun, very good games, and they run on literally anything.
Dope.
Yeah. Skullgirls actually has a really cool fucking thing that I just want to talk about in terms of optimization, where if you turn the graphic settings all the way down, instead of affecting the actual character models too much, it makes the background movement just a flat 2D surface.
Oh,
like it'll stop all animations in the background, so it doesn't affect gameplay.
Nice. That's fucking dope, actually.
Whereas if you turn the Dragon Ball FighterZ shit all the way down, it looks like some GBA pixelated nightmare shit. Oh boy, it's hilarious. Like I look up lowest graphic settings for Dragon Ball FighterZ. It's pretty funny.
It looks like Budokai Tenkaichi on the GBA.
Oh, it looks worse than that. It looks like a Game Boy, just a Game Boy, like the original Game Boy fighting game would be. Oh boy, it's really bad. It's hilarious.
That's
though.
Something I have to.
Someone was actually streaming just matches of them playing with the settings all the way down, and you're just like, yeesh. I don't know if they want any. I doubt it. I feel like it would be hard to parse anything, but whatever.
Oh my god.
So yeah, did Them's Fighting Herds. Played a bit of Alice Madness Returns.
Yeah, let's hear about
that.
Too
deep into that, but it's very nice. It's
so when did that game come out? It was sometime in 2011. Yeah.
Yeah. Very nice. Probably the best hair physics I've ever seen in any video game. I'll give it that much. It's literally the most impressive thing I've seen, especially since it came out in 2011, which, if I recall, came out. Another game came out around that time, was a Harry Potter game in which Jenny Weasley's hair looks like a fuck ton of just pasta stuck. It's the worst, like noodle hair shit I've ever seen.
Fuck.
It's really bad. I'll try to find a screen grab of it and send it to you later, because me and my friend played it 2-3 years ago just for like shits and giggles, and like we had to stop because I couldn't stop laughing at how bad Jenny's hair was.
Oh god, that's great.
Anyway, yeah. So
was that the first person shooter game? The first person
Harry Potter
one?
No. I think it was Deathly Hallows, or
one of them is an FPS game where you have a wand instead of a gun.
I have
I think it might be the Wii version of Deathly Hallows.
That sounds about good.
But really
that
funny.
Right.
It's so funny. Harry Potter. Oh boy.
Alice Madness Returns is fucking dope. Aesthetically, story-wise, still pretty early, but it's like kind of series of unfortunate events type deal where Alice's fam burns down. And she kind of goes like a bit mad, and then
she goes mad. You say mad as a hatter?
Just a bit. So she has this doctor trying to make her forget her bad memory. It's kind of unclear right now where I am in the game.
Okay.
But it's fun. Gameplay is really nice. Like, there's a bunch of little attention to detail. Like, her dress is fucking really, really cute. And has, like, this tiny little skull on it. And it switches per level. Oh. Like, we got to the Mad Hatter level yesterday, and now it's all steampunky and shit.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
So it's like, it's cute little details like that feel like there was a lot of love put into the game.
Nice.
In terms of at least aesthetics, like artistic design and shit. Like, the art designer on that game had a fucking field day. But yeah, still pretty early in that, so I don't want to talk too much about it. But so far, I'm having a really good time with that, and that's pretty much that for me.
I think I did play a lot of shit this week, but the stuff that I focused most of my attention to was in completing 2 games that I've had for a while. So I guess I'll get this one out of the way first. So last week I spoke about Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. So like I said, I was in the last third of the game last time we talked about it, so I've beat the game since. This is my first time, I guess, like, feeling like I got to fully experience Xenoblade the way it was intended. Because the only other time I'd played it previously was the 3DS port, which, as I said before, is a very competent port. But it's also... a lot of stuff had to be compromised in order for that thing to work on the 3DS.
Yeah, of course.
Of course. It's a fully 3D, like, not quite open world, but something approximating that RPG that is
it's
very
like,
long. So
yeah, it kind of reminds me of Dream Drop Distance. In terms of, like, impressive shit that you can shove onto this tiny handheld machine.
Exactly. So they did a very, very admirable job with that port, but because it's so compromised, I always felt like I never fully got the chance to experience that game the way it was intended. And I had borrowed the original Xenoblade Chronicles from my friend David when I was in college, and I borrowed all the Project Rainfall games from him, actually, because he had all of them. But of the 3... Xenoblade was the one that I think I just jived the least with, and I think I've previously spoken about it when we were talking about Xenoblade 2, and I think a little bit last week too, but I didn't really like the battle system, because it's cooldowns and warm-ups for attacks, and it's very MMO, which is not really my bag. But
yeah,
I've since, as I said last week, come to very much appreciate this battle system, and I really liked playing at it. So I think the conditions are right this time for me to enjoy the game to its full potential. So that being said, I really like the last the last quarter of the game, I should say, because it feels like it's split into quarters. It's kind of like a boss rush towards the end a little bit, where you MMO. You do the final dungeon, and then it sticks you on. It gives you a point of no return, and they're like, "Do you want to go around and do all the side quests first, and then come back?" So I did.
That's really appreciated.
So I did. I
love it when games do that.
I hit that point of no return, and I said, "I'm gonna loop back around to this, but I'm gonna go back and fill in some side quests and shit." So I did some secondary story side quest, and actually, will come into play later. One of the side quests that I did tied into the narrative of Xenoblade Chronicles Future Connected, which is the bonus game included with Definitive Edition that is a direct sequel to the story of Xenoblade 1. I'll talk about that in a second, but so I did some of that. I also got a whole bunch of new Monados for Shulk, and I kind of went and collected all the bonus outfits for all the characters. So I had all the different new outfits that they had available for them, which is really cool. And now there's a new game. I beat the game. You go towards the end. You go to the final dungeon. You beat this big monster. It puts you on this path of no return. You fight a bunch of bosses, and the game ends. And I really cannot stress enough. I'm gonna not spoil this because I think it's really worth playing. How genuinely great I think this game's story is. And I know I spoke last week about how I've saying this a lot. I spoke a lot about this last week, but just for the sake of reiterating what I said, I like that the story is dealing with a lot of dualistic concepts, but I guess the the major thesis of the game, at least as it pertains to the end, and I think how it kind of brings all this stuff together, is that life isn't dualistic. Life isn't just organic life and mechanical life. Life isn't just gods and men. Life isn't just two polarizing binary forces constantly in competition with one another. It's not that. And the game towards the end demands that you break that cycle, to redefine the character's understanding of not just their world and how it functions on a fundamental elemental level, but of their purpose, of what they are and what it means to exist. And I thought it was really well executed and very sweet. Like it got me, right in the
feels,
right in the feels. Right in the feels, right in the gut.
Right in the feels.
Like it just gave me a good feeling. I ended that game feeling very satisfied with it. So yeah, Xenoblade Chronicles, I can say now, I think that might be one of my favorite RPGs of all time.
Oh, really?
Really, it really stuck. It's gonna stick with me. And now I'm playing Future Connected. So the big thing with Definitive Edition, apart from it being like a complete remaster of the original game with like a whole, basically using the graphics engine of Xenoblade Chronicles 2. So it's a very pretty game, I should say. There's some graphical flaws and whatnot, but it is a pretty game. And it's a Wii game after all, so it looks very good for a Wii game ported to Switch with like a rejiggered engine. But
which is the most you can ask for.
Pretty much, yeah. Like they did everything that they possibly could to make this game as pretty as possible. So yeah, maybe that character's costume clips in the cutscene, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean, like,
who cares?
Fuck.
The voice acting is good. It's a British voice cast. They do an amicable job, including, actually, one of the actors did eventually go on to do something big after she played Melia in Xenoblade. Jenna Coleman, I don't know if you know her. She was an up-and-comer when she did Xenoblade, but she was the companion on Doctor Who for a bunch of seasons.
Oh shit, true?
Yeah, she was like one of the main characters of like three or four seasons of Doctor Who.
You made it, Jenna.
So yeah, she did really good in that role as Melia, one of the main characters. And she came back to re-record lines for Future Connected. So she's in that along with the guy who played Shulk. And so Future Connected takes place a year after the ending of the original game. And like I said, I'm trying not to spoil this, so this is, I guess, a mild spoiler if I have to kind of explain what's going on. I'm sorry. Yeah. The world is basically restarted and recreated at the end of the game, and the world is completely different. Like it's not Bionis and Mechonis anymore. It's like a world, and there's a part of the world floating in the sky above the city where everybody's living together. And that part of the world is the remnant of the Bionis, and it's the Bionis' shoulder, which is a part of the game you never went to in the original. So it's a completely new area. It's pretty big. I want to say maybe just a little bit bigger than the biggest open area in the regular game. So like about the size of Gower Plain, which is like the big main area in the Bionis part of the game.
Yeah.
But it's pretty big. It has 2 settlements for different people groups and like a whole bunch of cool environmental caves and dungeons and shit and a lot of old ruins. It's very cool, and the way they tie it into the lore of the game is that the capital city of one of the races of the Bionis, the Hyentia, which is the race that Melia is a part of, at least partially, like it kind of went missing when shit went down at the end of the game and disappeared, and so they found it floating up near the Bionis' shoulder. So Shulk and Melia are going to investigate and see if they can recover the city. But when they get to the shoulder, they realize that a bunch of people who survived the end of that game are living up there, and they can't get back down to the surface where everybody else is living peacefully. So their existence for the last year has been the opposite of yours, whereas yours was about rebuilding and kind of trying to, like start anew. They were stuck with the conflicts left over from the old world. And so you go up there and you realize, well, we've been down there sitting pretty and helping one another and having all of our races live in harmony with one another, or relative harmony, I guess. There were people up here who were struggling not just with like opposing forces that are threatening their safety, like monsters, but with each other, with the politics of the old world that they have not had a chance to outgrow.
Topical.
So there's a lot of kind of prejudice that is not hinted at but really signposted. There's a lot of discussion of it, and there was like a lot of loss on this side of this world now, because these people went to go and try to reclaim that city, and the city has been infested by a monster called the Fog King. So like they were like, hundreds of people before, and now they're just dwindling under the hundreds because so many people died in a futile effort to recover this place. And so it's a pretty kind of harsh scenario to throw these characters into. I've not gotten too far into it so far. I've only advanced like maybe about an hour and a half into the game, and I don't know how long this new game is, but it still feels like I've got a little bit of a ways to go.
Fair enough.
But so far, I really enjoy like a lot of it. I guess on an idea level, like I think this for the most part works because it's just more Xenoblade. But
yeah,
it still suffers from kind of like the post-game story like slump, where it feels like while they are wrapping up a lot of interesting stuff and kind of filling in a few narrative holes with it, it's still kind of this feeling that this feels a little perfunctory. And I'm just a little disappointed by it because I was so blown away by Xenoblade 1. But I know that I'm going to go and play Xenoblade 2 after this anyway and get my full... This, you know what this feels like? This feels like
the answer?
It feels like a fragmentary passage.
Okay. That's not as bad as the answer.
No.
But...
It feels like a fragmentary passage in that it's fundamentally good. It also kind of feels like more or less kind of like a backdoor demo for Xenoblade 3 and for some concepts and ideas that are going to be introduced into Xenoblade 3. So
super early, like using the old model for the new game. I know it.
So it feels a little bit like that. So yeah, I'm not disappointed by it. I feel like maybe that's too harsh. Maybe underwhelmed is the right word.
Yeah.
Underwhelmed after coming off of such like an excellent, fully complete feeling game to, like playing, I don't know, like Kingdom Hearts 2 and then playing a fragmentary passage,
Yeah.
Like although like fragmentary passage is nothing compared to KH3, So if anything, it just makes me more excited to play Xenoblade 3, and I'm maybe a little impatient. But I hope that comes out sometime soon, because this series has it was never low in my eyes. Like, it was never something I considered to be bad by any degree, but I feel fully engaged with it now. So now I'm properly ready to appreciate it for all that it can do. And you know what I hope they do is maybe re-release Xenoblade Chronicles X, the Wii U game. It was like a weird online thing. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know if it would work on the Switch. I don't know too much about the game, or if too many of its mechanics are tied to the the Wii U gamepad. I don't know about that. So it would be hard to retool. But
they could probably workshop it.
I'm so fucking ready to play more of this series. I really like it. So yeah, that was my experience with Xenoblade. And I'm very happy I finished it. I can't wait to play more, and I can't wait to move on to playing 2 and to really fully appreciate 2. Or not like it. I don't know what the consensus on that game is, but I remember liking it enough when I first played it.
I think it's pretty up there in terms of
esteem.
Yeah.
So
it's a series I'm not really familiar with, though.
Yeah, no, exactly.
But I remember people, I think, being like, "Yeah, it's pretty good."
I mean, I bought it based solely on my enjoyment of the 3DS port of Xenoblade.
I think one of the critiques I remember was the main character's accent keeps changing.
I remember. I think it was Neve on Let's Fight a Boss said something about that, and that made me laugh. Because he was like, it's like he's doing a Welsh accent, but then he dips into Scouse or
Scottish, and like
that's really funny.
Which at that point, tourist. if that's the worst thing about the game, that's just funny.
Yeah, exactly.
It's got some deadly premonition fucking shit going on.
Exactly. Except it runs at
that game's a mess.
20 frames.
I'm so happy that game's a mess.
It's nuts. Well, one of us is going to play it, and one of us is going to talk about that, because that sounds fucking nuts.
Yeah, we should probably we'll toss that in the news. So we have 3 news things.
Yeah. Oh, there we go.
That's all right.
And
we should hit this at about an hour. Should be fine.
I'm gonna, I guess, cap off my game talk with a game that I bought a very long time ago. I spoke about it when I bought it, and I spoke about it when the trailer came out on this podcast because I thought it looked really interesting. But I never fucking played it because I'm stupid. And maybe I just wasn't in the mood for it now, but let me tell you, months of quarantine, having me aching for some simulacrum of real life, got me feeling things when I played the Friends of Ringo Ishikawa.
Oh, yeah.
So this is a very ambitious game. It's a 2D side-scrolling open world beat-em-up / kind of adventure sim game. It's kind of plays a little bit like a 2D Shenmue. It has a little bit of
River City Ransom.
It's basically, if you like Kunio-kun, and if you like Shenmue, this game is pretty much made for you.
It's because a Kunio-mu joint.
Yeah, it really is like chill beats to get beaten up to is like the game.
That's amazing.
That's pretty much how it is. It's chill beats to get your ass kicked to. So the game is developed by Yo, who's a Russian developer.
Yeah. I remember you talking about this, I think, when it was announced.
Yeah, when it was announced, yeah. And I think I spoke about it that I had bought it and played it a little bit. But,
possibly.
But I had the game, I just kind of had it on the back burner. I was like, I'll go back to this maybe when I'm feeling ready for it. Well, I was feeling ready for it now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the way I would best describe this game apart from that is like, yeah, a little bit of Kunio-kun, a little bit of Shenmue in that it's kind of about like a character who's very much like Kunio. He's a delinquent, or like any Yankee delinquent stereotype from Japanese manga or anime. Yeah. You know these characters. You've seen these characters. You've seen...
That's a Josuke.
that's a Josuke. That's a Jotaro. That's a Kuwabara or a Yusuke Urameshi. Like, that's who this character is. So, Ringo Ishikawa, he's a 17-year-old Japanese high school delinquent who, in the final year of his high school career, is going through a pretty serious existential crisis. It's basically everything around him is kind of collapsing. His friend group is slowly but surely coming apart at the seams, and like huge changes are happening all around him, and he has just kind of stagnated. He's
me some of that hashtag relatable content.
Yeah, he's totally plateaued in his everything, where everybody else is changing, getting new hobbies, entering into relationships with people. The conditions of people's relationships and understandings of one another are changing, and Ringo just is getting left behind. So, I mean, if anybody's ever grown up as a teenager, you might relate to that a little bit. But yeah, so it's set in this little Japanese town. It's very much like a, your, Morio little kind of place. It's got, it's got a cafe, it's got a video store, it's got a blah blah blah. It is like a little town in Shenmue, pretty much. It's a super detailed and intricately designed open world, but it's small. It's small, but it's detailed to scale. Kind of like Kamurocho or something, even.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Ringo kind of wanders around town, and you basically play the game at your own leisure. You can do anything you want at any time you want. You can choose to go to classes and to get good grades, or to slack off in class. There are entire buttons in this game dedicated to, based on certain contexts within it, making you do delinquent shit.
Yeah.
So there is a dedicated light a cigarette button
Oh my god!
at all times throughout
Can you
the
do it
rolling
in the
part
stores?
of the game. You can do it in the rest because in the 90s in Japan everybody smoked everywhere. The only place you can't light up a cigarette is in the hallways of the school, but if you go to the school bathroom, you sure can. So
Oh my god!
you press the B button, you light a cigarette. You press it again, you put the cigarette out and throw it out into the fucking ground. And if you press the A button and then press down, you can crouch down on your knees and you can still light up a cigarette and you can smoke while crouching down and just looking cool.
Oh, you can slap squat smoke.
Yeah, it's literally what it is.
Is this only on the Switch?
This is on Switch and PC, so you can play it on PC. If you have Steam, it's on there. Yeah. But Ringo Ishikawa is a Japanese delinquent sim. But yeah, as you go through this, if you go through this game, you do all this delinquent shit. You can get a job if you so choose. To make money, or you can just beat the fuck out of people and steal their money, which I kind of did both because I got rich, and I eventually bought myself a television for my bedroom. But yeah, you can give Ringo different hobbies. One of the things that I really liked Ringo to do is read, so I made him big into reading. He would go to the school library and read all the books there, and then buy all the books at the local bookstore and read all of them. And all of the books are like Russian classics or like contemporary classics of literary fiction, so like a lot of pretty great novels. The first book I bought him was Rumblefish by S.E. Hinton, which he really liked and suits the tastes of a Japanese delinquent, I think.
Nice.
But you can also get him to read like Dostoevsky and Tolstoy, and because he's a Russian developer, there's a lot of Russian classics in the game. And there's a student that if you start reading, she won't talk to you during class, but if you go there at 7 a.m. to school, Yuna, who's sitting in your classroom, in your homeroom, will talk to you about the books that you've read. And Ringo and her will exchange opinions on what they've been reading. So I find that really, really cool. But a whole bunch of little details happen based on what you choose to do or not to do. So for instance, there's a girl who you're friends with called Aiko, who wants to be tutored by you. Mm-hmm. And you can choose to tutor her, but if you miss your tutoring session because of getting into a fight or doing something else, being a fucking delinquent and getting your ass kicked and waking up in your bed the next day. If you miss
your tutoring due to thuggery.
Yeah, if you miss out on tutoring her, she's gonna want nothing to do with you anymore because you stood her up when she needed your help. Which, that happened to me, and it felt pretty shitty, I'll admit. I felt bad. Yeah. But other things
that happen. That's great when a game
like,
makes you feel actual emotions.
Yeah. There's other things happening in the game on the sidelines. All of your friends are going through shit. So the friend group is
real quick, the name of the game again?
The Friends of Ringo Ishikawa.
Yes.
Yeah. Your friend group in the game is pretty small. It's you and 4 other guys, but there's Ken, Goro, Shiro, and Masaru.
Ken Masterson.
Yeah, all of these guys have problems. So Ken is like, he's kind of like, I guess, your best friend, the one that you've known the longest. And he's super into, like, he's the one guy who out of all of you has like a extracurricular activity. He's into boxing, competitive boxing, intercollegiate boxing. But his continued involvement in your bullshit essentially makes it so that every time he has to do a fight, he's always got an injury from fighting outside of
street thuggery.
Yeah, street thugging and gang banging, and the fighting that comes with that fucks up his hands, so he can't do well in his fights. And it ostensibly completely railroads his fucking career, or like potential career as a boxer. So he's going through that shit, and he's like, well, I can't fucking box, so now I just have to do other shit. And I think it makes him start to resent Ringo and the friend group for kind of like, maybe not just resent them because they help kind of enable his involvement in that behavior, but resenting himself to a degree for seeing himself as these people who are stupid and have no goals. Goro is one of those guys who doesn't know how to do anything except fight. The only thing he's good at is kicking people's asses and getting his ass kicked. So he kind of goes through the beginning of the game he sits out on the roof of school all day when everybody else is in class. He never shows up to do any classes. and his grades, like if you look at like the grades table for, because they post the students' grades out on the wall, he's always got F's across the board. You start out with F's across the board, but if you do better in school, you can get A's or B's or whatever. I got A's in everything because I'm a fucking nerd. But and I made Ringo into a little nerd who reads books and gets A's in school. But yeah, so Goro doesn't know what he's doing, and there's a point in the game where you and Goro go out at like 4 a.m. and sit out in the park, and you talk to him and have a smoke together. And Goro's just like, man, do you think there's just like something else? And he's just like, and yeah, Ringo's just like, Goro, get a fucking hobby, dude. Like, get a fucking hobby.
Yeah.
So, like, the next couple days pass, and then suddenly Goro's taken an interest in theater, and he's part of the theater club, and he's good at it. But he's found his new thing that he's into.
Yeah.
So Goro gets something that he's into, and he has a crush on a girl that he's with in the theater. So that kind of keeps him there, too. Shiro is kind of like, he's the one who strikes me as the follower. Like, he's there because you are all the strongest guys, and he gets along with you well enough that he can stick around. But when other shit starts to cull his attention away from you, he's quick to kind of start forgetting about your bullshit.
Yeah.
So he gets into a relationship with a girl, and because he's in a relationship with her, he just stops having time to hang out with y'all. Like, while you guys are out busting fucking heads, he's taking this girl to art museums and to the movies and shit, and he's getting interested in shit like art, and he's getting interested in shit like movies and reading and, you know, having discussions. You go on a double date with him and at one point and one of his girlfriend's friends, and actually have a pretty insightful conversation with her as you walk her home. But
nice.
But like you can see that
I'm gonna play this.
He enjoys being in a relationship. Like, this is something that what he really wants is just to feel loved and appreciated by other people, and to not have to feel as if he's hanging around other people because they're the only people who, you know, give him the time of day.
Yeah.
And because he does everything they want him to. So he's done that. And then Masaru, I think, in my opinion, is the most interesting one. Masaru is kind of like, he's the one who seems like, even though Ken is Ringo's like best friend, at least childhood friend, Masaru's the one that seems to kind of need Ringo the most. Because without Ringo there to keep Masaru straight, he could go bad. Like, pretty bad. So there's a lot of times early on in the game where you catch Masaru shaking down kids from your school for money. And you tell him, like, Masaru, we have a fucking code, dude. We're not, you know, we'll go and we'll bust heads and, you know, fucking fight with all the other schools, but we're not going to steal money from students at our school. This is our fucking school. We're here to kind of keep them safe from those motherfuckers and to keep these motherfuckers afraid of our school. And Masaru's like, fucking whatever, man. So it's clear that he's pressed for cash enough to start doing dubious shit for it. And I won't get too far into what happens, but they talk a little bit about his backstory and that Masaru grew up poor. And, like, Ringo is poor, and all these other guys are not necessarily well-to-do. Ringo and Masaru have their poverty in common. Ringo lives alone, like, in an apartment with no fucking kitchen, like a single-room apartment building.
Yeah.
Masaru has a single mother who works all day. I think they said she's, like, a nurse. And so Masaru's mother is never home, so he's kind of a latchkey kid. And because he's always pressed for money, but he needs money to do shit with, he, you know, got into thugging. And he's friends with Ringo, and him and Ringo have their poverty in common. But Ringo has, like, a set of morals that I think he wants to consider himself, like, you know, a moral enough person to abide by. But Masaru doesn't have that. And so Ringo kind of helps keep Masaru grounded. And more or less keeps him from doing shit that's too stupid or too out of line until he gets himself into some bullshit. So a lot of your subplot with Masaru is trying to get him to fucking talk about what's going on so that you can help him.
Yeah.
But anyway, these characters have just a startling amount of interiority to them that I really appreciate. And the game ends on a very sad, and this is the ending for the game regardless of your choices, which I think I kind of appreciate because it kind of leans into the melancholic atmosphere of the game itself. But the game ends on kind of a really sad note. And it leaves Ringo's story and existential crisis that he's experiencing unresolved. And that's, I don't think that's much of a spoiler, because like it's a vibe you get throughout the game that this is a guy caught in a shitty this is a guy caught in a shitty cycle that he's probably not going to be able to get out of. So anyway, Ringo Ishikawa is a really good game. Like, it's small, it's ambitious. The combat mechanics are surprisingly in-depth, and like Shenmue, you can go to the gym and learn new techniques and train and level up as you fight, like an RPG.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, is the combat mildly like Kunio-kun joint, where like there's blocking-ish?
There's blocking, kicking, different combos, punching. There's like sweeps. There's it's a full like Kunio-kun style combat system.
Sick.
Which I think is the direct inspiration that Yo said he pulled from.
It seems because I watched, like, I added it to my wish list. I'm probably gonna buy it immediately after this.
Yeah, I have one minor criticism of the game, and I feel like this is so minor I almost feel like a dick mentioning it, but I just feel like maybe just for the sake of saying something kind of negative about the game to make it seem like I'm not fully praising it. Yeah. It's a small game developed by a small team of people. So it's not developed by people who are first language English speakers. So this is not even directly the fault of Yo, and not even really the fault of the translator. But I do think the English translation could use a bit of work.
Fair enough.
It's not that it's bad. It's not that it's bad. It's just there's a few typos here and there that make certain scenes, when you're really getting into it, at least for me, kind of took me out of it a little bit, because you read it and you're like, wait, what is it? What? And you read the sentence 2 or 3 times over.
Oh yeah, you have to say,
and it kind of like psychs you out a little bit, and you're like, oh, okay. But I do want to give the translators credit for, like, regardless of like the spelling, grammatical errors or whatever, nailing the fucking tone of the original version of the game without without they succeeded in communicating every mood of every scene without being even slightly compromised. So they did a really, really good job with that translation. Like, it just completely, like, in terms of just the tone, it gets it perfect. It's just like some of the grammar and shit could use a little work. But once again, small game, it's like fucking $18. Like,
yeah,
they're
like,
making you pay $18 for a game that I'd gladly pay more for.
What? Not that this is like generally a thing. It's just so I know what I'm getting into. How long to beat?
So I started playing last Thursday. I finished it 2 days ago. So on Wednesday.
Okay.
So
about a week.
It took me
about how many hours.
Took me out about a week, and I want to say I sunk about maybe 20 hours into the game, maybe even less than 20. But that's because I wanted to do all the shit, you know?
You
can
I mean, I will also want to do all the
and
shit.
sleep through shit all through the game and cut time and stuff. And I'm going to play it again eventually, and I'm going to play the other game that Yo developed. I think it's something the Stone Buddha, but it's kind of like a Golgo 13 inspired like Hitman RPG with a similar visual style and gameplay to Ringo Ishikawa, where you have like quiet shit mixed in with the brutal violence. So another chill beats to get your ass kicked to game, basically. And the soundtrack is great. It's lo-fi hip hop. It totally sounds like the soundtrack to Late Night Adult Swim.
Fair enough.
So it's very, very good. It reminds me. It reminds me of Too Mellow's Midnight Broadcasts lo-fi albums.
It's got a sleeping album.
Yeah, very similar vibe to that. It gives the game that kind of melancholic, dreamy tone.
Amazing.
But yeah, Friends of Ringo Ishikawa, completely transcendent experience for me. I think I really enjoyed it, and I can't wait to play that other game of Yo's. And I will recommend this game until I die because it's fucking cool. It's something completely like I've never played before, and I really appreciated the time I spent with it. So yeah, Ringo Ishikawa fucks really hard. Play it. And I guess we have 3 little news bits we want to get into before wrapping up, just because they're
real quick.
They're interesting. I guess the first one, because it's the one that'll maybe take the most time to talk about, is Ghost of Tsushima is kind of coming up again, at least in the Twitter circles that I'm involved in.
I haven't seen much about it other than like I'm kind of excited for it. I haven't seen like any anyone really talking about it. I watched a couple of
I think there was some things on it this week that came out.
Oh really?
I think like some info from Sucker Punch or something, or like a video, maybe like a trailer tease, something like that. But anyway, it was up in the news again, and some people that I follow a lot of I guess like people who are based in Japan, or Japanese people who are based in Japan that are kind of very in on leftist discourse and are involved in it. One of the people that I follow is Kazuma Hashimoto, Justice Kazi on Twitter, who's a streamer. And he was talking about this, and it got me thinking, and I wrote a bit of a little mini thread about it on Twitter. But essentially, so Ghost of Tsushima, if you're not aware, it's a game developed by Sucker Punch Games, who are a Western studio who are known for the Sly Cooper games. And their newest IP that they're involved in, that they've started, is a samurai game. It's set in 13th century Japan. And it's set on an island called Tsushima, which is kind of in the sea of Japan, right across from like China and Korea, I believe. And Tsushima was an island that was like a hotbed for conflict between nations. Yeah. And Ghost of Tsushima is about a samurai kind of defending the island from a Mongol invasion. And I guess there's something to be said in this game, and about a lot of Western media set in Japan, wherein that media, whether intentionally, though probably not for the most part, that media becomes kind of unwitting propaganda for Japanese nationalism. And it's a problem that you see in like a lot of Western media too, or a lot of, if you read a lot of Middle Eastern fiction, or like fantasy set in and around like Middle East, or if you read a lot of historical fiction in general, there is kind of a tendency, especially in Western authors, to glorify the past, even if it's not their past, but the past of whatever culture they choose to write about. And the glorification of the past, and like the idea of the past being this kind of romanticized arbiter of like a perfect, maybe not even perfect, but of like a simpler time, this where this was this and this was this. A man could have a katana, and that was cool, and or even in like I said, in a lot of medieval fiction, like knights were cool. Like, yeah, knights and shit are cool. Samurais, they're pretty fucking cool aesthetically. But when you get down to the nitty-gritty kind of real-world politics of those things, you realize that these are really just kind of really harsh caste systems where, like, the disparity of power between people who are samurai or people who are knights and people who were, like, peasants was really heavy, and a lot of people suffered because of these systems. And because of this, like I said, a lot of media tends to kind of become an easy tool to help justify the agendas of nationalist people. And Japan in particular, especially now, is experiencing kind of a lot of the world is really like a resurgence of heavy right-wing ideology in like its popular politics. Yep. And their current government is like a hard right, bordering on nationalist party.
You could argue that
they are nationalist. Really, they're like, they're pretty much everything but, and the problems therein lie in how the West is now choosing to kind of tell a lot of stories, because there's an effort to diversify voices in Western media, but turning to doing it the wrong way or in a wrong-headed way. And Ghost of Tsushima, because it is a story ostensibly about a Japanese national expelling a foreign invasion pretty much nearly single-handedly based on all the shit we've seen so far, and the way that the Mongols are portrayed as kind of animalistic and vicious and brutally violent, whereas you as a samurai are elegant and disciplined, not like these animals from a foreign land. it kind of is rubbing a lot of people the wrong way, and me included.
I can see that. Yeah, I could see that.
So
I didn't see that. I didn't see that narrative.
Yeah, it's something that you once again, like, it's something that's kind of inherent to those kinds of stories, that it's kind of always there and you don't want to acknowledge it, but when you start to think about it, it's bad. And it's bad enough when it's a Japanese company kind of pushing this, but it's a whole new kind of bad when it's a Western studio maybe unwittingly falling into the trap of creating something that ends up justifying Japanese nationalist politics. And that's like something that a lot of people have been talking about. So if you go on Twitter and you follow Justice Kazuma Hashimoto, you'll see he talks about a lot of stuff like this. He also talked a great deal about the debacle concerning trans representation in The Last of Us 2, that I think he had a very, very strongly written and strongly worded and strongly argued kind of series of posts and threads about that. So if you actually just follow Kaz in general, because his shit is really good. Justice Kazi on Twitter, Kazuma Hashimoto. Follow him on Twitch. He's a great streamer,
I'm doing
too.
that right now.
But he's super cool. Justice Kazi. Yeah. If you put in Kazuma Hashimoto, I think you'll find him. But, he's really wonderful, and he got me thinking about that. And so I wrote a little bit about that on Twitter. The next thing that we want to talk about is also political. Because this is GamePunx, and we're not afraid political. We're not afraid of politics. Everything's political.
Everything's political.
But this has been something that a lot of people have been seeing, and a lot of people have been speaking out about. But the official esports teams for like all the different branches of the United States military have like a pretty prominent online presence. Ooh. But the one that's been making, which is gross and fucked up to begin with, because why would the U.S. military need esports teams unless they were basically just backdoor ways of recruitment, which is what they are. That's very transparently what they are, and anybody with a brain should be able to see that. But the one that's been making headway so far is the one for the U.S. Armed Forces, the Army, just the regular Army, the U.S. Ground Army. They have been responding to like official Discord posts about giant stuffed animals and like different things, and like just say with uwu baby language. They've been using uwu baby language on main to interact with other accounts, and
even the alleged person who came out and was like, I run the Twitter, and it was like this super like adorable Asian
this girl who's like a Filipino girl, and maybe her late 20s, early 30s. And like, and you're like, I don't think you should be running this Twitter if that's how you like get the U.S. military out of esports. Really, the U.S. military has no place basically existing in any way that they do regardless. But if the U.S. military is going to be this infutable, complex thing that we can't fully dismantle, it is not fucking appropriate for the United States military to be participating in esports events. It's not. And I know that esports companies ridiculous. And event planners allow this because they get paid exorbitant amounts of money to basically advertise for the government and for the army.
The army being in esports is just some fucking recruitment plan, 100%.
It is
it's disgusting.
It is a
it's fucking
disgusting recruitment tool, because it not only does it normalize involvement in the military and by extension military conflict and war crimes perpetrated by the military, but it humanizes the people involved, but while erasing kind of their complicity in these horrible actions. So when you have the U.S. Army esports team social media feed going uwu 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 I'm soft I'm baby all over fucking Twitter, people are gonna get really mad. And the worst part is that the person who's running the Twitter, I'm not gonna post who they are. I don't want people to go harass them.
No, that's not any better.
Yeah, but people were interacting with them and criticizing them for this behavior, and their responses were, I guess needless to say, pretty inappropriate, and basically continuing the same trend of what they were doing. And it was frankly really gross. It was pretty much just active participation in the erasure of the U.S. military's complicity in acts of violence and war crimes in the Middle East. Like, it's not cute uwu baby to go over to a foreign country and kill innocent civilians with drones, or commit sexual assault against innocent civilians, or kill innocent children. That's not cute. And you're not cute, and you're not cute for trying to hide that.
But we have drones now.
Yeah. That's so much worse.
Don't you want to... You don't even have to acknowledge that they were actual people. You can just...
Yeah. It really... Another civilian casualty becomes another 100,000 civilian casualties.
Yeah.
Great. Like, you've really solved the problem there. So, yeah, just these esports teams representing wings of the United States military, get them the fuck out of esports. This is not appropriate. And, you know, it's not in good taste. It's not respectful to people globally participating in esports who have been directly affected by violence perpetrated by the United States military.
The military, yeah.
But on top of that, it's disgusting and very naked propaganda. And
like, if you want to put the military in esports, make the entire military an esports team and settle your wars in esports.
There we fucking go. Like,
if you want to treat
war as a game, if you want to treat war as a fucking game, and if you want to pretend that these, like, the military being allowed to participate in games is not like a naked recruitment tool, then fucking restructure your military or get them the fuck out of competitive gaming, because it's disgusting. And nobody is here to be cool with that. Nobody wants that. Even people who are like...
Especially if you're not going to make a thorough internal investigation after some shit went down.
No, exactly. Which everybody is needing to be doing right now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the least you should be doing is allowing the military to participate alongside other people in esports competitions. It's really gross. So, that's a pretty heavy thing. The last thing, I guess, on a pretty light note...
Deadly Premonition 2 runs like shit.
Deadly Premonition 2 is running at like 20 frames per second, and it is beautiful. So yeah,
my favorite is
people have been getting their hands on DP2. They've been playing with review copies,
and it's been going great. It's been going exactly how it should. My favorite is all the people who are like, how are Deadly Premonition fans even justifying this? It's like, bitch, this is a miracle that it even exists.
The fact that DP2 exists to begin with is nothing short of a miracle. The fact that it is a fucking broken mess is not surprising. And it's kind of what Deadly Premonition
I couldn't have hoped
want.
for more. Exactly.
That's why people like the original game.
It's a horrible mess. The voice acting's bad. The story mess. Is a blatant Twins Peaks wannabe ripoff. Twins Peaks.
I will forever to this day laugh that Swery has saying he's never watched Twin Peaks when
it's such bullshit.
Twin Peaks is fucking huge in Japan. Twin Peaks is bigger in Japan than it is anywhere else in the fucking world. It's so popular there that it inspired a bunch of famous games in the 90s that everybody knows about, including fucking Silent Hill and Link's Awakening. So, like, there's no way in hell that Swery has never watched Twin Peaks. It's fucking impossible.
It's impossible.
It's impossible.
It's fucking horseshit. He's doing the David Cage.
He really is. I've never actually watched any of this, but I've never watched Blade Runner. I've never engaged with his work, but I could say that there are some similarities. Like, Swery is like, there are similarities between Twin Peaks, sure, but I never watched it. Like, that's bullshit, you fucking
I've never seen... I don't even know what a Twin Peaks is.
Swery, you fucking liar.
Swery, you fucking liar.
So, anyway, just, I compel you. Go online, search Deadly Premonition 2, and enjoy.
I cannot wait for that port to come to PC.
Oh my god.
The Deadly Premonition port on PC was already a horrible mess.
Isn't it not considered the worst version of that game?
It is. It will crash if you play longer than an hour unless you get this fan mod. They might have fixed it since, but when it came out, it was horrible, and I can't wait. I think I'm going to actually stream it. The Twin Peaks one. Or fuck, Deadly Premonition. Fuck.
God.
I called it Twin Peaks. Anyway.
Oh. So that's a light note to end our episode on.
Yeah.
But yeah, this has been GamePunx. Thank you for listening.
It has been GamePunx.
It's been a pretty short episode, but it's hot. We're dying of heat stroke. We're both a little tipsy. And we thank you for joining us on this fine listen, wherever and whenever you might be.
The backs of my knees are sweaty.
Yeah, same here. And I've got the swamp ass real bad right now.
Yeah. I think I'm going to have to take another shower.
Probably. Hit us up on social media. You can follow me at NouveauArtPunk on Twitter. You can follow Ben at ScratchMeSilly on Twitter and also on Twitch. You stream every Wednesday?
Wednesdays are a constant right now, for sure.
So
that's fighting game night.
Regularly Wednesday fighting games.
Yeah, everything else is a little up in the air right now. It's kind of my work schedule is getting mixed around, and also having my child at my house schedule is also getting worked around.
Yeah.
But Saturday should be streaming Dead Space 1 with a friend.
Okay.
So tomorrow, around 8-9ish, and after that, I update this schedule pretty much every Monday. With what's going on. But yeah, tomorrow, Dead Space with a friend. And then probably the next one will probably be Wednesday, just because I'm kind of up in the air with everything right now.
All right.
But yeah, it's I'm getting some shit together to have a solid streaming schedule. I'm getting emotes soon.
Yay!
All that fun shit. Because I hit affiliate when I moved.
With emotes.
Yeah, I hit affiliate when I moved, so I can finally get subs and start actually making a little bit of money off of this.
Fuck yeah. Very good.
Hopefully.
Yeah, so you can follow Ben on Twitch and Twitter. That's his streaming schedule. Follow me on Twitter. I don't do anything really else, but if you want to follow me on Letterboxd, I write about what I've been watching during my quarantine. And yeah. And if you want to, if you follow me on Instagram, also at NouveauArtPunk, I posted some Animal Crossing patterns that I made. If you want to download some of the clothes that I made a lot of Sanrio clothes. I made some Miffy clothes if you're into Sanrio or Miffy or cute shit like I am. And I have some band album arts that I made.
You got hella band album arts.
I made a lot of album arts in there. Most of them are completely made by freehanding. So if you think that's cool, they're all there. A lot of Tatsuro Yamashita, a lot of Japanese jazz records, some great alternative rock records from the 80s and 90s. One of my favorite albums, Yankee Hotel Foxtrot, if you're a Whaleco fan, that's there. Streetlight Manifesto, all of that good stuff. So yeah, if you're interested, follow me on Instagram at NouveauArtPunk. Follow me on Twitter at NouveauArtPunk. And yeah, thank you very much. Have yourselves a good evening. Stay hydrated and stay safe.
Stay cool, you cats and kittens, or whatever the tiger lady said.
Be cool, be wild, be nice.
Whatever.
Fuck
2020.
Wear your goddamn masks.
Yeah, wear a mask. What is wrong with you?
They suck, but wear the masks, please. All right.
Just...
Night, everybody.
Good night.
Yeah. See y'all.